Oh, God.
Are they shipping you more strange human body parts?
Yes, they are.
No Soylent Green today thing.
And it's called flu shots. We're finally getting those.
Yeah, we got 5 boxes of Fluad and like 5 boxes of Fluzone high dose.
Yeah. My manager told me, don't let anyone know we have these. I am not doing any flu shots until CVS forces us to.
I'm trying to cut back, so the high dose is too much for me. You know, I'm trying to wean myself back off.
My store manager is already doing that. He's like, yeah, we got him in. Just let me know. God, don't do it.
Well, it kind of works, because if you do them faster and get rid of your supply, you can honestly say, we don't have them anymore.
No,
but we live in America. So we live in America. Don't get too used to having medicine.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Man, the moment we let people know we have it, though, I just know the floodgates are going to open and it's going to get stupidly busy, which is going to suck because we're losing like a bunch of people pretty soon because they're all going back to school.
Yeah. I was talking to my district scheduler yesterday when I was at my last inventory of the year, and she's like, oh yeah, I opened up 3 recs for your store, 2 part-time and 1 full-time. You should be able to log in and look at those too. And I'm just like, Teresa, you realize that at Target we don't have lead techs that can look at that stuff, right? I can't see any of that stuff. Ever.
I mean, is it really your concern? You're going to be out of there soon, right?
2 years. But then she was like, oh, that's weird. You should be able to. But just tell Fred he's able to pull them up for you. You can look at them there. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure.
Oh, that's nice. At least I know that it's not just my current situation where you're asked to do things that is relatively impossible.
Now I have to hear this. Don't leave us hanging.
So, I don't know if you guys paid much attention or remember, but a few weeks ago, my direct superior received a little small chewing out by the franchise owner and the regional manager. In that conversation, they gave me responsibilities at a multiplicity of locations. In the course of this, several employees came down sick. One employee showed his ass and walked out, and then came back and said that he was sick. But during the course of this, so I'm responsible for a multiplicity of locations. I don't have keys to the upper management office to properly do my job at either of these locations. Yes, I can open up the doors and get the staff in and all of that, but all of the actual responsibilities of the role are impenetrable to me without another member of that team that they're trying to replace, or the present team that I am on being in the building. So I am at once a respected member of the staff who they believe can accomplish these tasks and goals and keep everybody online and be in a leadership role from the front. But I can't do it without the team that you're trying to replace being present. So I am still beholden 100% to everyone that you say is doing things wrong or needs to be replaced or needs to be shown or needs to be trained. Which is all fine and good, except for all day Sunday. I am the only leadership in the building. In either location. With no access to the office to do any of the back office responsibilities of the role. So yeah.
Yep. Sounds about right.
I'm sure you'll manage.
Well, you know, I've gotten pretty good at dazzling with bullshit, so I can manage. I can put on the big boy pants and lead the best as I can, but I can't get anything actually accomplished. Nothing that's actually needed for Sunday can actually get accomplished when I'm in the building. Alone. So yeah. I'm not gonna say that I was set up for failure, but you know, I don't know if you know this, but I play vampires, so certain machinations kind of stand out to me.
Right.
And here's the thing, on that follow up. So the owner saw me because he was watching the cameras by myself, not able to access anything. And he shows up to offer his assistance. At which point it is reiterated again. Hey, everything's behind that door. Oh, really? Everything's behind that door? Yes, everything's behind that door. Oh, so why don't you go get it? Because I don't have keys. Oh, well, if I had known that, I would have suggested you get the key. That's great. But you're here now. Do you want to open that door? Oh, no, I'll have to call Nick or Danny or... So you don't have access to that either.
Oh no.
That's amazing.
So the owner doesn't even have access to his own building's keys?
Correct.
You're telling me?
Correct. So yeah, good times. Good times.
So who does have access to the keys then?
The second location, the location manager who was actually on vacation in Vegas, and his team lead for the location, who was actually working about 70 miles away at his second job.
So no one is what you're telling me.
That's what I'm hearing as well.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was lots of fun.
Now, I assume that the smart thing to do after this would be to give you your own set of keys. Did they do that?
Well, it is Wednesday, and we're stepping away from the real world for a little bit of time. But I can answer your question with a simple, I'm still waiting.
Of course.
Yes. Sounds right.
Still waiting. Still waiting. But luckily, we have Chicago. Luckily, we have our mini midweek vacation away from all of the mundane realities that bombard us consistently. So, without any ado on my part, and any further ado as the case may be, I want to thank you all for being here. It really does mean a lot, especially the way that things are changing and moving and everything else that's going on elsewhere in the world. I am really, really appreciative for all the time that we've shared, all the time that we will share. Thank you guys for your grace and your talents, and welcome to another episode of Soup City Sins. We have come a very long way when we last left our heroes, because even despite the fact that they are not actually heroic by most metrics of that word, they are the heroes of our heart and they hold our attention. They give us an opportunity to really peer into the depths of this world. When we last left them, Miriam was being haunted, which seems very de rigueur at this moment, save she was being haunted by one Lucifer, one Blue, the twice deceived specter of every stereotypically foul-mouthed, bad blaxploitation pimp that there has ever been. Him and his many shades of blue, his constant drip from his hair products, and his mouth that runs a mile a minute on the slowest setting, while tending to Lucio, who looks as if he's cosplaying the wreck and ruin of Lestat after Louis and his spat. Sophia and Silvio flying from the center of the maelstrom that they, are most intimately aware of. The door works both ways. The ladder goes up and down, and to escape what that may cost them, they are fleeing from the shelter. And Hestia, having left the shelter hard on their heels to find sustenance for themselves, to put the beast back into its bottle, or at least leash it more securely. And there's a lot there. There's the fact that there is charred wreck and ruin of Lucio, which as far as any kindred worth their eye tooth can attest, should not be a possibility. Because even existing for only 2 years in this world that they inhabit, the 200 feet that he traveled should have been an impossibility. The fact that he remained on his feet, covering that distance, should have meant there was nothing left of him but the memory. Yet here he sits, mending and healing, his Vitae working very hard to keep him here. So with all those impossibilities, I put it to you all. Do we have any questions, suggestions, hypotheses, or corners we need to round off? Silence is a great thing. That means that we are off into the races. This is officially Soup City Sins, Season 16, Episode 2. Those men are stuffed hollow. As stated, there's a lot in the balance. Because there's, without beating that horse overly much, being haunted by images of dead children and a dance that will never in fact end, to the point where Miriam's able to not only do the dance, but do the dance, complete the dance in its most perfect of form. So much so that even the ghost of the dread pirate Nash was stunned into silence and stillness. It's one thing, but the twice dead specter of Blue is entirely another. Her happenstance with him was thin at best. Her understanding of him even less so. And the fact that he isn't here, right there at the corner of her vision, not moving completely into view, even though his voice bombards and assails like a percussive massage against the mind's eye, is a little bit more disturbing. It's amazing what you can become accustomed to. It's amazing that you can grow used to what you can survive. So one haunting is relatively fine, relatively normal. This is something else entirely. Miriam.
Aside from confused. She will continue to, tend to Lucio's burns until all of the clothing is removed, because that's just bad. And she will just glance occasionally over in the corner with this incredulous look like, what the hell is going on now?
That being the case, remaining focused and staying determined, removing every scrap, shred, and charred remain of Lucio's garments, so that his fatigue can work its magic without causing undue further damage by bending the fabric into his being. Would you be so kind as to roll your resolve plus medicine? Your DC is 3. If you fail, Blue's non-stop verbal diarrhea does in fact get to you. You may miss a few scraps. You will become a little distracted as he goes on. Well, motherfucker, all you need to do if you were just trying to get the boy naked is, well, maybe flash a little bit more of that smile. After all, I hear that you are an open house as far as all sorts of spirits are concerned. Do you like invisible hands all over you? Is that what you're trying to do? Because he's not invisible. He's, in fact, very, very visible. I'm sure that's quite itchy and scratchy if he was to lay a hand on you. You know what I mean? And goes on and on and on and on. You did not believe that you could conjugate the verb motherfucker so many different ways. Yet in the score of a few moments, you have heard it used as a noun, as a place, as a verb, as an adjective, as a more than dangling participle, more than an aphorism or idiom. It is utilized in such a wide variety and multiplicity of implied definitions that you are not sure that he even knows what the original meaning of the word is. However, for all of his consistent, non-stop, continued diatribe, you are able to focus on your fingertips, where they connect to your hand, and where those tendons go, and which bits and pieces of charred thing is more than likely probably actually part of Lucio's person versus the clothing that has been seared into, well, at least the first, maybe the second layer of what remains underneath all of that. Pulling and picking and scraping and occasionally rehydrating so that you can see a clear difference between where the charred remnant of flesh and the charred remnant of fabric actually ends and begins. You're able to all but tune him predominantly out. And there's a song that begins to play to help you further meditate. Can't exactly remember the lyrics, but you do remember the tune, and without meaning to, it slips from you in small, little, quiet moments as you're focusing and frowning down at the waste that is before you. The miracle that is kindred physiology and the ability to continue operating this ambulatory corpse is amazing. The scientist at heart that cause you to go to medical school is like a child in a candy shop. The sheer will to continue existing, because you dare not say the word live, because if that was the case, then all that you have been, all that you have seen in the presence of this coterie would be hard pressed to not turn you into a complete cynic. Is there any real value in the continued existence of kindred? Even the best of them, even the heroically minded of them, tend to leave waste and death in their shadow. Now, speaking of waste and death, leaving the shelter in a newer vehicle, new to you, still stylistically and lavishly appointed, has you wondering why people like the idea of the new car smell. It's clearly chemical, it's clearly manufactured, and it clearly has no connection to anything that really matters. The world around you and all of its permutations matters, partially due to understanding that existence is an unending line. And while humankind has been here for less than an eye blink as far as eternity is concerned, it is your existence. All of it matters. There's value in it, even if that value is completely subsisting. Yet, here you are, bathed in that newer car scent, bathed in the comfort and appointment, the blacked out windows to your right and left, Sophia, the partition, which is, of course, down between you and Sylvia. All signs of an apportment in this life that most can only dream of. The fact that it comes as counterbalance to the very horrors that you have experienced and wreaked on the world seems like a fair trade in this moment. Because in those dark windows, you begin to see the shadows move, and your breath cool to the point where even though you know for a fact there's no exhalation of air, the space between your gaze and the window begins to fog up. And sitting there at that cherry wood desk that you and several other familial siblings, whether by blood or other means, you're not entirely sure at this point because of the very convoluted track and path of your family line, had to kneel, or worse, stand arms stretched outwards, holding things that grew heavier over time as an example and a punishment, a way to course correct that cherry wood desk. Comes into view, and behind it, while not your mother, a trusted matron of the house, she tended your mother's needs, including, oftentimes, tending to the children and their instruction. Most people, upon becoming an adult, try to offer to take some control of their past by giving nicknames or using adults' first names or the dropping of the sir or the ma'am and using even so much as their last name. That was never the case. And while Miss Regina is only a ghoul, there's some, even now, trepidation in you as to which of you would survive if there was a loss of respect between you. Madame Rossi.
Miss Regina.
I would not trouble you, save there is a moment in need of your presence. The elder Rossi is not far from your location there in Chicago. She requests your aid, assistance, and activity. Will you accept?
Of course I will accept.
Your ties to the Premier Hotel, the source and center of the God Machine on the northern end of Chicago is unfortunately needed as well. The entirety of your cadre are needed. I will forward the address via your servant Silvio. You are expected within the next 2 nights. Is there a message you would like me to return to the Elder Rossi?
Just an out of character question. The Elder Rossi is her mother?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure who we were referring to, like way down the line. I assume by cadre you mean the kindred that I have associated with since I have come here.
Yes, it seems as if your efforts have been most successful in aiding the Pater's plans. Their connection to the hotel is potent enough that is believed to be assistive in this matter.
Very well. Tell my mother I will see her tomorrow.
Very well. Good night, Madam Rossi.
And you as well, Mr. Regina.
And as the window once more simply reflects the dimly lit night sky as you all surge and slink along the Chicago streets, the fact that a ghoul, a still living member of your mother's household, is able to utilize an ability that requires years of study to perfect is no small thing.
I'm sure, Silvio, that you are not excited to see my mother.
In the light of what I can see, I believe that it may be too soon for you to reconnect.
I thought you were counseling that perhaps I should take the throne.
You should. And then you should see your mother. Before then, well, you're still just a member, not even a respected potential equal.
I need allies to do so. I could proclaim myself a thing, but I have no way of holding it.
Isn't that what the cannon fodder is for? And that's the reason why you brought them into your good graces?
I brought them into my good graces because having them at my disposal was sure to prove useful eventually. Do not know what help they will be in this. I can certainly declare myself in charge. There's nothing from stopping me. But I have no allies. The one ally I had, we accidentally unallied him. I'm sure I could bring him to heel, but I would always be looking for the knife in my back. More so than normal.
Yeah, but these guys, you got a Tremere, a Warlock, you got a blood dealer, and then you got a doctor who's more concerned about the living than the dead. Use her for PR. Use the Warlock for the ties to the Chantry. Use the blood dealer to make sure that you never go hungry, and neither do any of your allies. not much to start with, but it's better than nothing. And right now, no offense to your cousin, Zal, but I don't trust someone who's so flighty as to purposely try to undermine their own potential success.
She didn't seem to value me much as an ally.
That should be her mistake.
I had planned to just stand back and not interfere, not aid. But this would be a giant win for the Rossellini were I to take the throne. The shining jewel of the tower.
Makes sense. You got somebody who's missing themselves in the south suburbs. You got a flighty princess chosen because of some unknown connection as heir apparent. No one really expects much from you except for being the do girl. You go, you do things, you move on. Wonder if you would have set down roots, enough roots that you can actually take full control. You stop being their do girl.
It has merit, but without the support of the chamber, what do I have? I have my own abilities, but my own abilities are not, they are considerable for my age, but they are no different than anyone else in the clan who is ambitious can bring to the table.
And that's where your new, as Miss Regina said, your new cadre comes in. Even without having full control over this god machine, you got people who've been connected to it, been tied to it, that you can utilize, provided you use them. Give them a little bit of what they need, take a lot of what you want.
I suppose that is a thing I could do.
I mean,
it has occurred to me that perhaps them telling me Zal was to see what I would do. We could certainly return to Vienna or Venice, but I wonder how they would view me if I did not grasp for the opportunity.
well, you know what they say, it's a squeaky wheel that gets the oil. And right now, you're not squeaking. Right now, you're just moving along, as they say, instead of interpreting to your own ends.
Very well, we shall do this. What I need from you, other than what I normally need from you, is to come up with 3-4 escape plans and keep them to yourself. If this goes south, I do not want it to be the end of me.
Sure thing. And with that phrase, often trotted out, often shared between you, there is a pact formed. Well, yes, you are in fact his mistress and someone to which he has indebted himself with every breath that he still takes. There is an extra bond that many never see in the casualness to which he responds, the ease in which he tends to your needs as best as he can without ever being asked. And that pact between you grows stronger with each sure thing. And speaking of a sure thing, as the saying goes, there is no such thing. There is no such thing as a sure bet. It is always a gamble. There is always a risk. There is no perfect crime and no sure bet. But the one thing that you can count on is that the beast will out. The beast will find its way. The beast will take what it needs from the world at any and every cost and consider it fair trade. And the beast demands sustenance. and has been needling you and nettling you for hours, his voice rising ever more. You can almost hear it there in the background, and you do. They won't leave you alone. They will not stop clouding your judgment, affecting your perception on the world, changing where you view things from until you put it at peace. Leaving the morgue and the hospital and making your way out into the world seems like you're walking through a memory. In a similar state as this, Hestia, you came to yourself as the beast had its way with you and several other members of the world, leaving them in pieces, broken, bleeding, and starting a war between the local gang and the shelter. The last time you were in this state, there was a illicit moment between you and several members of the shelter. The last time you were in this state, close enough to this moment, well, no need to keep beating yourself up over it. It's a big city, and a small space between you and your beast inside your head. What do you do?
Knowing that even though they are kind of person non grata in the city, and that there's still a chance that the word hasn't completely got out, that they're not to be blood hunted, so she's going to go somewhere that is very typically other kindred free, but full of people and seemingly easy to pick up a meal type of thing. Somewhere she kind of blend like maybe a smaller neighborhood bar or something like that. But like I said, avoiding most places she knows that kindred normally congregate. Yeah.
You know, that's the funny part about living in such a large city. There was a point in time for Hestia where part of her nightly getting out, which she only did once a week, maybe twice, depending on the evening, leaving from her abode north of where she is now, making her way down into the city, down near uptown, all through the area, visiting the little out-of-the-way places. And yet here she is, settling in at the bar at Oasis, literally less than a mile from the shelter, literally less than a mile from her home base, as it were. The Oasis is one of the few places on this end of town that is open illegally late, meaning that after 2 a.m., all chances of making it home unscathed or being able to remember their night grow less and less. And if you know the right people, you are able to congregate at the Oasis well past the cutoff of 4 a.m., 5 on Saturdays. The last time that Hestia and her associates, her friends, her coterie, her family by choice were at the Oasis, they found a kindred skeleton left behind the bar. Last time they were at the Oasis, Simone and Alex headed off to do untold mischief in the world. This is as far removed from kindred business as you possibly can be, even as the memories of the last time she was here began to abound. Settling in at the corner of the bar, the bartender looks her up and down, gauging her age. She's not illegally young looking. However, there's still that question. She is not dressed in the manner that most usual average barfly's dress. She's not in slouchy jeans or pajama wear. She's not dressed to the nines. She's not trying to style and impress on the masses around her. She's not taking selfies or busily click-clacking at her cell phone. She's looking over the crowd. She's present and aware. That sets off some alarm bells in the bartender. The question here is on the walkover, on that very tense near jog from the shelter to here. Did Hestia blush?
Knowing she was going out in public to hunt, she would definitely have blushed. Yes.
Excellent. Do me a favor, go ahead and make that rouse roll for me as you settle in at the bar. And is there something besides hunting that she is attempting to do to seem more at home? Is she attempting to erect a facade around herself to give off the impression that she is not the monster that she is?
Makeup. So she does a quick makeup job, like smudgy, smoky eyes, and a bit of a, not a red lip because that would call too much attention to her teeth, but something she just grabs out of her pocket and smears on her lips the best she can. Taking her hair down, which she normally doesn't do, but just to look a little more wild and free, windswept, whatever. So she takes her hair out and shakes it loose, and the curls kind of fluff and smooths her clothes, the best she can. Just trying to, look less rumpled, I guess, but more nonchalant and unbothered, I guess. But now I'm at 4 hunger.
The beast is all but kicking the door off its hinges. And as it facilitates seeking the best voice to have the most reach, that patois comes back, that Caribbean voice that you're not immediately sure where and why it's there. Go on, girl, you need to feed. Grab the first one there. You can slink off to the bathroom. No one's going to care. And it goes on, and is muttering and mumbling and doing its best, facilitating between a semblance of DeSable's voice to Alex's, and so back and forth it ranges and roams, picking through memories and moments that you've shared, trying to find the one voice, the one personification that will have you obey your need to throw caution and care to the wind and satiate itself and keep you undead. And would you be so kind as to roll your wits plus streetwise? Everyone knows that when man plans, God laughs. Even so much so that it was in a scene in a relatively old, at this juncture, movie. And so Hesh's plan is a simple one. Feed. Find a way to get what she needs from the world around her without leaving a mess. Or at least one she can't clean up. Sitting at the end of the bar doesn't take long for a single woman to find herself hit on. The drink comes over. The bartender just looks her up and down and sets it down in front of her, walking away before she has a chance to ask whom. Seconds later, a tall Amazonian blonde sidles up, her jacket barely long enough to quantify as anything more than a bikini top, her leggings tight enough that you can tell where the femoral artery is and how healthy she is. You can even gauge roughly about how much she squats. You're thinking about 325, maybe 350, based on her thighs. And the fact that the boots don't fit well, they don't rise over the calves like they should. She settles down, her ink bright and fresh, the only way a newly found independent rebel could ever be. And the scent wafting off of her is a mix between confidence, baby oil, and desperation. The makeup not even registering because she picked the wrong shade. She went muted, toned down, and trying to highlight her very strong jaw and her simple, straightforward musculature. Not quite managing to be alluring or to be inviting. There's still some handsomeness there, but it is clear that she's undecided as to how masculine she should put her makeup or how feminine she should push her attire. So it's that middling ground, undecidedly neither and both all at once, as she settles into the seat next to you. And she tries to make eye contact. And your beast all but leaps out of your throat. You can feel your fangs sliding into place.
Trying her best not to catch her top lip on her fangs and not to flash too much of them when speaking to this woman. She kind of glances up. I suppose I have you to thank for this?
Yeah, I figured it'd be the perfect start too. And she looks at your ensemble. Perfect start to making sure that this jacket, I love this jacket. And she dares touching your forearm, her finger lightly running along the jacket. And something stirs in you that should never stir in public. Your beast. All of your dark impulses, all of those heady, weighty feelings of need come rushing forward like a flood. This would look great on my floor, she says, mustering the courage for a line that clearly has not worked for her the bulk of the evening. But in this moment, the opportunity to get her alone and divest her of all of that, clearly in this case, unneeded blood is more than your beast can tolerate. It's more than you can stomach. Say if you do. The beast is everything save brave. The beast is quite cowardly and worried about only itself. Worried only about its continued existence. In its paranoid, cowardly fear, it takes in the world around you as well as your prey. And it sees that this is a trap. She struck out because she's trying too hard. She has failed and is desperate. In your eyes, taking in the crowd, you see the two men on the back wall, their glass almost completely dry instead of holding the condensation that would occur if you hold a beer and the glass begins to sweat. You see the jackass by the door playing at his phone, the glass in front of him, almost completely liquid. The rocks that were clearly there melted into nothingness, and they keep looking furtively across the crowd and focusing in on her and you. You realize that this is very much a trap. Your beast begins screaming in your head, but all the same, a trap worth the effort.
How well do I know this bar? Do I know if there's like a back door or...
Yes, you do. You know that green dumpster is perfect size to hide a body in, especially one that's been drained and tossed inside. The garbage picks up on Wednesday, so you're sure that it'll be there long enough to either not be found ever, or this will be the second time in a year where this bar is the site of a crime scene. There was Juanica who caused such a stir out front that the area was swarmed and surrounded by police for days afterwards. There was the fact that you know that out that back door, over that gate, across that parking lot, and between the two buildings that reside there, you can make it to the lake and go north or south along the lake and disappear into the night. Or just dive into the lake itself and sink out of sight. You know that at a dead sprint, if you had to, even taking the long way, you can be at home in your suite of rooms at the shelter in 20 minutes, taking the long way, leading a very merry chase for those on your heels.
Hestia is going to smile winningly at this bit of bait that they put before her, and I find myself needing to go to the bathroom, and gives her a very conspiratorial wink as she slides from the stool and heads towards the back hallway. And instead of ducking all the way into the bathroom, kind of waits to see if she's followed by, of course, the person who's supposed to be trapping her.
And as you wait for the trap to spring closed, there is no way that you should be here, Lucia. There is no reason at all. You were sure that in your determination to make it to the south suburbs that you would be facing down death itself. Yet you walked in the sun, its heat initially warming and inviting, more than comfortable. In fact, it was very, very tolerable. All was well with the world for a brief, fleeting moment, and you've never felt that. Even as a child, there was always something off. There's always something there in the dark, and you realize now that it was more than likely your biological father, your sperm donor that got you here, who was sending emissaries, who was using the darkness as a tool. There's always some cloud hanging over your head and over Stella's head. But for those brief moments, walking from the hidden entrance into the morgue, the ramp down into all of that darkness, to the parking structure, all was right with the world. You had the day. You had the sun. Until you stopped moving. Interesting. Where does that leave Lucio as another piece of himself is removed?
Miriam's still next to him, right?
Yep, she's busily deburring, debraying, and removing bits and pieces of the fabric around her. In fact, there's a small tune that pops through her head as she's focusing in and removing everything that is not him from him.
He just says aloud, "How am I still alive?"
Sheer willpower, I guess. I've seen some people come back from some pretty gnarly things.
How long was I out there for?
Hard to say. I was asleep. But, Silvio found you and brought you in.
Remind me to thank him later.
Do.
You should be dead. This should be far more painful than it is. But over the last hour of Miriam's careful, focused attention, you are considerably less pain than you were. Almost as if the blessing of all of that dead blood in your system has its uses.
Would I be able to try and mend an aggravated damage?
Yes.
Okay. What is Lucio's current hunger? Because he did get like a cup of blood last session, I think.
Yes, he did. He did consume all of that fresh blood, that tasty, tasty blood, obtained by Silvio from somewhere close enough that he was able to return with a meal as well.
So would that leave my hunger at 1 or 2?
1.
Time to risk it. I'm at 2 hunger now. I'm at 3 hunger now. And I remain at 3 hunger.
You know, it's funny what you can get used to. It's funny what becomes normal after continual exposure to it. And the unending need, the want, the consuming thoughts about blood is one of the weirdest things to grow accustomed to. There's something about having the beast ranging and roaming around the inside of your skull, bouncing off of all of those sharp corners, is strangely soothing. You know that you will continue existing because the beast is there, and in their full-throated voice is offering ways to obtain more. And it wouldn't do that if you were dying. You all but died before, and it was silent. It was screaming, "Run for the hills." It was driving you to embrace the cowardice that would make sure that you, while continued existence was possible, would never be able to look yourself in the eye again. You'd never mentally be able to see yourself as you. And it was quite all right with that.
Good to know some things never change.
And Miriam, what you hear when Lucio says that this motherfucker's gotta be out of his motherfucking goddamn mind. There's no way that I would let you get me naked that way. There's nothing left underneath all of that charred, wrecked ruin. He is just a, that's the problem with these motherfuckers. They never quite understand what the motherfucker, and on it goes. Well, Lucio, while you realize that there is something to be thankful for in regards to still being here, and the miracle of you still being here is not far from your mind, even with the beast prattling in the background and pushing you towards potentially getting Silvio to get you more of the delicious blood. Maybe if you said please this time, maybe he'll bring more. The room is chillier than it should be. One of the many unspoken things that Kindred tend to do without even really thinking on it is crank the heat. There is a warmth in each of the private suites of rooms in the shelter that is nowhere else in the halls or even downstairs where the actual shelter is. Not the hospital, the former hotel where you all reside. Your suite of rooms, there are several redundant circuits that keep the heat going in the area balmy enough that if you were alive, you'd be sweating. But dead though you are, it's just comforting. Yet now there's a chill to the room, the sort of chill that usually presaged, well, you know the rest of that story.
Is it just me, or is it a little colder in here than normal, Miriam?
I'm going to guess that probably has something to do with your friend over here that won't stop prattling on about me.
We motherfucking friends. This motherfucker tried to get me killed. He tried to feed me to fucking monsters that ate souls. Can you believe that? And I came to work for this motherfucker as a fair exchange. We had a deal.
Can Lucio hear this now?
Nope.
What friend are you talking about?
Pimp?
See, this motherfucker don't even care. He can't even see me. You see that shit? That should let you know we ain't really friends. This motherfucker is completely...
I'm going to turn towards him. It's like, I shouldn't even be able to see you.
Okay, now Lucio is going to throw up Oblivion Sight.
There's no need to roll. There's no... He's good, but he's nowhere near good enough to really actually hide from the gaze of Oblivion. And he's not actively trying to hide from Oblivion itself. He's trying to maintain an air of secrecy and continue doing what he is doing. There are several ways to win someone over. One of the many ways that is utilized in actual living individuals is proximity. Even if you don't like someone, if you spend time with them, you grow accustomed to their presence. The same works for spirits and souls. Even if they frighten you, anger you, or simply annoy the shit out of you, by being constantly near, they become invisible. You grow accustomed to them. Lucio, however, has not grown accustomed to Blue. Never did. There was always that will there or won't there between Blue and Forcipulis. There was always that very transactional nature of Blue. And then as things changed and Blue's death was all but assured, his shunting from this coil and the next, shunting completely out of existence, being fed on by the one Kwai, well, you thought you'd never see him again. And then you did. And now here he is in your space, prattling and looking. The moment you stare at him, your eyes going empty of all semblance of light and life. The cat with the canary is the best approximate of the look that's on his face as you turn towards him.
What are you doing here?
I could say the same for you. What the fuck are you doing here, motherfucker? You should have been dead twice over. There's been several times that you shouldn't have motherfucking made it, but yet here you motherfucking are. What the fuck?
I guess we're similar like that.
Oh no, we ain't similar at all. Because see, you motherfucker turned your back on your family. Your family has been nothing but good to me, unlike your rotten motherfucking ass. Can you believe this motherfucker here? And he turns to Miriam. This motherfucker tried to kill me not once but twice. We had an arrangement, we had a deal, and every time he comes back, he always mouths off to me. Why does he motherfucking mouth off to me? I have no idea why this motherfucker constantly mouths off to me, considering that we Well, I've been real motherfucking nice.
When did I try to kill you?
You
Please explain.
left me in their hands, in their mouths, and in their motherfucking stomachs.
Was it that time that I stopped Forcipulus from eating you? Was that the time I tried to kill you?
Oh, you try to butter me up with your friend, your associate, your... I don't know
Was
what
it
to
that
call
time
them.
that
Abomination.
I took
Abomination.
you
That's
out
a word.
of the hospital from all those monsters?
You mean the time that I saved you from your motherfucking cousin who's trying to kill your motherfucking ass?
That time I pulled you out of that hellscape? Yes.
You just don't get it, motherfucker. Every time you motherfucking ass say that you try to save me, you put me in more motherfucking trouble. What the fuck? Don't you understand that this motherfucking shit goes way motherfucking deeper than you can possibly motherfucking understand?
What would you like me to do? How can I fix this? How can I make it up to you? Please enlighten me.
Miriam, there's a moment in every conversation that is tense, or when there's two different opposing sides. There's a moment when the feeling of the conversation shifts. It's usually when a doctor is breaking bad news, and you see the stages of grief, the anger, the frustration, the depression, and then the pleading. That's usually the moment that you're most aware of when it happened. But it doesn't just happen in those horrible moments. It happens in every conversation. There's something that changes, like an aha moment when one side believes they have the other right where they want them. And you've never had that moment transpire so graphically, because the moment that Lucio says that, the ceiling above your head opens up. Blue throws his hands up. The lighting in the room takes on a cinema quality. The corners growing dim, drawing your attention to the space over your head. And then you see it. You see the future that should have been the present. You see Lucio as the right hand of Don Castiglione. You see Arsenio as Lucio's general. You see Ignacio as Lucio's secondary. You see Mama Cass ruling at the right hand of Don Wojcik, and an army of souls. A full-fledged battalion of battalions of souls, spewing and spreading out over the city from this location. The Don sitting on a throne made of stones, those dark black stones, deeper and darker than most things you have ever seen, save the stone that Sophia was holding when all of this went sideways before Lucio walked in the sun. And there's an offer there. This is the teaser. This is the trailer. This is the sales pitch that could make all the difference in the world. And it's clear there's another thing afoot. It is clear that everyone save Lucio is in fact a spirit from beyond. Is in fact the disembodied soul of their former selves. And then Blue ruins it. Now, if your motherfucking ass just simply say yes, we can make sure that your motherfucking sister gets a new body. that we can undo all the things that were done because y'all motherfucking ass wants to ruin things. You already been given the gift of sunlight. We've already given her the chance to remain immortal, pushing things the way that they're supposed to be. And all of that could be taken back and undone somewhat, a little bit. Well, redone, re-edited, jiggered together. All you gotta do is say yes.
In Lucio's mind, there are so many things that he just said that are oh so horrible to him regarding his sister. What did you just say about my sister?
Motherfucker, did I stutter? I said we can get your sister back in her body, put her back in the daylight. We already got you to daylight, we can get her daylight too.
What happened to her?
What do you mean what the fuck happened to her? Y'all ruin shit. Don't you know there's a cost for doing business? There's a, what do these motherfuckers say? A rate of exchange. One thing for the next. Power don't come without a cost. Don't you know that stupid shit?
She's dead. Is that what you're telling me?
It doesn't sound like it. Put her back in the daylight? Like you?
Oh my god.
So is that a yes, motherfucker? Damn. Why can't you keep shit simple?
Yes to what?
I
Yes to what?
feel
Exactly.
like this is appropriate time for a poltergeist quote. Do not go into the light, Carol Ann.
What am I saying yes to?
Letting us in. There's still a connection. Blood calls to blood. Letting us in. You already got one hook in you. We already got you to daylight. What more do you want as proof? Say yes. There's a coin on your dresser where you left it. If you go pick that up right now, I can step into you. You'll never hear me ever again. And we would be able to move through you to further the plan. And your yes will get your sister back in the light. Your yes will make sure that while you ain't gonna be taken as a friend just yet, but you can earn that right by not being a motherfucking roadblock anymore.
Miriam is just shaking her head.
No, that's supposed to be up and down, not side to side. That's not the way you motherfucking say yes. I don't know who taught you that shit.
I told you last night, don't do anything stupid. Point stands.
Stupid is saying no. We giving you the, we gonna stop fucking with you. You gonna stop fucking with us. We all but go our separate ways, except for you have the opportunity of being on the winning side for fucking once. And your sister.
And how can I know that anything you're telling me is true?
Didn't you see me die? Didn't you see the person that made me stay alive, stay in existence, die, cease to be because of you, motherfucker? And yet here I am, right in front of you. I wasn't gonna be in front of you. I was just gonna work through her until you said yes. Well, till she said yes, because she already let one ghost inside. She's like fucking tenement. I mean, not quite as bad as you, but you got defenses now. So working through her, I'm gonna get to the rest of you all, and then we're gonna get to your good friend, the Mistress Rossi, so that we can, well, backdoor this bitch and just take over. But if you say yes now, we ain't gotta do all that. Make it easy for once in your life, instead of being a hard-headed little pain in the ass. Say yes.
I'll think about it.
You don't do much thinking now, do you? Shutting down rituals, letting magic go all over the place, being stolen by motherfuckers that should not have that power to themselves. This motherfucker here. You goddamn you. Why'd you have to tell him I was here? And then blue fades into nothing, leaving Miriam and Lucio alone in his place, in his sweeter rooms, the warmth suddenly flooding back into the area. An inhalation of air, the only remnant, the only reminder that you all were not formerly alone.
He just does not shut up, does he?
He never did. Do you think what he said was true?
About
My sister?
give her a call. I couldn't tell you one way or the other. I've never met your sister.
I tried last night, and... well, fuck it, may as well try again. Do you think you can do me a favor and dial the number for me?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Here's the funny thing. Lucio's phone was a regular phone. And his new phone, well, the number being forwarded and all that good stuff. The moment you remove the phone and begin dialing, you see that all the notifications of the voicemails left.
Okay. Well, just so you know, I'm not being rude, but I'm going to open these and read them to you. Or put it on speakerphone and listen to the voicemails. I don't know.
Okay.
There is a voice you have not heard in several weeks, almost several months at this point. Time just being ripped from you. As a potentially immortal being, it is funny how often things come down to fractions of time being far more important than they otherwise would. Hearing Faye's voice, and her telling you need to get here. Hearing Faye's voice telling you need to get here. There's something important going on, and that dear Miss White is helping, but you gotta get here to say goodbye. Bad things are happening. And hearing some guy's voice, a little bit high pitched in the background, oh my god, is worse than listening to a 911 call about a family member. Because even though Faye is not blood related, she's been in your life longer than almost anything else, save Stella, save your mom, save your dad, save hell, even at this point Ignacio. She is family in everything but name. She is blood in everything but actual liquid matter. And hearing the pain in her voice and her trying to erect that facade of bravery and her calling you and realizing that this was the night before last. It's 2 nights later. Time always the thief of forever, has stolen this from you. She called you when whatever was happening with Stella, the same time it was happening with you. She called you. She reached out to her brother from another mother. She reached out to the person that has always protected her and her sister without blood, Stella. And you didn't make it.
Miriam, please make a phone call for me. I need to know.
We'll dial the number.
The fact that there's no response, the fact that you don't even go to voicemail, is troubling. But you know where you need to go. You know what needs to be done. The fact that it's been too long enough for whatever it was to happen does not leave anything but the queasiest of moments in your center of your being. She called. She reached out even though you were sure that they had purposefully not contacted you. Those two are never without their phones. Even kidnapped, you are sure that they would have been on someone's phone or someone's laptop, on someone's tablet. Yet, they did not. Until she reached out to you.
I need to go there tonight. I need to find out what happened.
Let's try to make you presentable then.
Oh, God damn it.
And speaking of needs, the conversation with Miss Regina is a reminder of your place. Your conversation with Silvio is a reminder of your place. The only way that anything changes is if you redefine what that means. Your place. So the question is, Sophia, what does that mean for Sophia?
Well, I suppose it would mean finding some way to get the word out that she is the new Dawn. Or Donna, in this case, because Italian.
Yes, and how would she go about doing that? They have a summons to go to the knee of the elder Rossi in Milwaukee, of all places. The part about Milwaukee is that for all of Chicago's bravado, for all of its inherent crime, its inherent vice, its very real core of darkness, Milwaukee is all of that and worse. Milwaukee is all of that and worse. It does not even have the acclaim of being considered a violent city. It doesn't have the claim of being one of the most corrupt places in the US. It doesn't even have the respect inherent amongst the criminality of the world to be considered a place worth anything. Even with all of its history, even with all of the exploits that have taken place there. It is an also ran, seldom thought of, the capital city for flyover country as far as things go. It is the place where you forget that you're actually in a city. It is a hub. Yet it's so much worse than the reputation of Chicago in regards to crime and vice, and then the sheer number of bodies that get piled up night after night, the sheer amount of violence that takes place there. In short, much like Chicago, being built on the ruins and the lives of everything that's come before, Milwaukee rebuilds itself night after night on the deaths and violence that take place there. Milwaukee is, if Chicago is the gateway, Milwaukee is the hidden tunnel that leads right into the heart of darkness. It is the other way. It is the open space that you go down into and find yourself in the center courtyard of all that hell space. And the Elder Rossi is there.
Well, certainly there must be some sort of channel she can go through. Perhaps in the spirit world.
Well, the summons. And therein lies the core issue at heart. There's clearly some power that can be attained or utilized by the proximity to the cadre of kindred connected with the shelter. Because at the heart, at base, that's really what you were told to do. Breaking down what the summons actually means and the specificity in regards to bringing the cadre. Either it's to usurp control of the shelter, which is highly unlikely knowing what Sophia knows, or it is through effigy having access to that wellspring of power. What is it that your mother may know or be able to utilize via their connection?
Probably less than she thinks she does. We hope anyway.
That is always the way. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And a little knowledge of a dangerous thing is potentially world ending.
Her mother was never really in her life until after she died, so she doesn't got that whole normal sort of, fondness for her mother that most people would. Plus, she grew up in a family of total monsters, so.
Yeah. Which, would you just going to go ahead and roll your intelligence in either politics or persuasion, whichever is higher. Your DC is 3.
Thank you, Dicebot.
Son of a bitch. Not that Sophia uses profanity out loud too often, but that's the idea that pops into her head, because it is clear that this is another manipulation. Not just another manipulation. From the very phrasing of it, from the very reach out, it is clear that this is designed to paint an image that Sophia could fall into. She began by using Miss Regina to reach out, the closest approximation to a loving maternal figure that Sophia has ever had. There's the built-in respect that Sophia has for that monster that is Miss Regina. There are the years of experience with one another, and the fact that Miss Regina respects the elder Rossi inherently places Sophia into that position as well. And so the summons, though not through any official channel, carries far more weight than it should, because it was manipulated and planned for it to do so. If the Paters wanted Sophia to do something, they would have reached out. They would have sent an official emissary. If the elder Rossi wanted Sophia to do something officially on the books, there would have been an official summons via the Paters through official channels. But instead, she stacked the deck and utilized a back channel means to elicit a response, to get Sophia looking left while she was driven right, to get Sophia asking the wrong questions.
Sophia will be happy to play dumb.
Knowing what's at stake, where does Sophia instruct Silvio to take them for the evening? They were heading back towards their abode, but is there somewhere else that Sophia would have Silvio drive them? Or is there some places that Sophia would fall back to or utilize otherwise?
I am not real sure at the moment. We got a bunch of things she's trying to accomplish at once, so she would have to get a hold of the coterie and let them know we're going to Milwaukee. But other than that, her big priority is somehow getting the word out. She's got access to a lot of spirits in her haunted haven, or the building being haunted, that is. That might be the way to go with that, since the building is a fetter for a lot of them. So maybe back home.
The drive isn't long. It never is. But it's always longer than it should be. You've always had far too much time to think, to plot, to plan, to consider all of the many angles that the world will come at you through. There's a unseediness, a forlorn nature to things, and it's par for course. You've grown accustomed to the sights, the sounds. You know what the city is like. You know what lays out there, and yet in this moment, still brimming with the dregs of the power from the lodestone, there's hope. You literally grabbed onto a live wire and utilized that energy to your own ends. And the lodestone, for all of its inherent power, for all of the potential destruction and devastation that could be wreaked from it, at base, it's just power. Doesn't have to be wrong, doesn't have to be evil, doesn't have to be used against you. It could be used for you, by you. And that line of thoughts brings you to the shelter itself. As you ease into your parking structure so that you guys can head up to your haven, and brings you to the idea of the shelter. It is a key component of a god machine. It is a god machine unto itself. It is power unbridled that the coterie has grown accustomed to swimming amongst. The feel of it is enough to cause that little greedy, avaricious portion of your brain to light up every time the idea of it crosses your mind. And they've grown accustomed to it. They are used to the pressure of it, so much so that they are completely and totally nose blind to what they have access to. And as the elevator dings and you step out onto your floor, more and more of a potential gambit the elder Rossi may be running settles into place. Milwaukee is a city in turmoil, always has been, always would be. It is a place where the kindred are only one of the apex predators in the area. It is a place where, unlike Chicago, there is no truce between the kindred and the lupines. It is a place, unlike Chicago, that its politicians are a little more brusque. They're a little more direct with their machinations towards local and eventually world domination. It is a place that exists in flux. The tower holds sway, but really, how much sway can you hold as just another member of the damned in a city of hell? And the elder Rossi is there. "2028 is closer than anyone could ever hazard a guess towards. The contract comes to an end.
Well, then that's where my allies are then, because I'm sure she will think if I put my kid there, then I'm there. And I will play along with that sort of ruse for as long as I need to get there."
And as Sophia settles into her haven, preparing things to reach out to the souls that are bound to the building, those bound to the floor, those attracted by the head ghost, as it were, the partier himself, who continues having bacchanalia even while non-living. It is 9 after the hour. Let's return at 19 after. See you guys in a bit.
See you in a bit.
And we're back. Sorry about the wait, guys. How we doing?
Hello, I'm here.
Here is definitely a good thing. Well,
Also here.
Isn't.
present is good.
But I already told you what I'm working on.
Welcome. So before diving completely back into character, any questions? Because there's a lot that you guys have done without actually leaving your abodes just yet. There's a lot that has come to light. There's a lot. Do we need an additional moment? Do we need any additional answers?
If Lucio actually does get the chance to go to Dalton, how in God's name are we handling that fiasco?
Well, that is a nightmare of logistics, but I'm sure that it is one that we can handle. The initial idea involves a little bit of multitasking. However, in order of importance, Milwaukee is unfortunately more pressing. But of course,
Yeah, but they gave them 2 nights to do that. Dalton's much closer.
no, actually, it's equidistant from where you guys
The
are.
next night.
Yes. I was hoping you guys would temporarily forget about the blah 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 so it could be sprung on you.
Yeah, like Miriam would forget that.
I mean, I already RSVP'd for tomorrow.
We RSVP'd first.
Yeah, but there's that Boone thing.
Decisions. And that's what we come back to. There's a lot in the offing. There's a lot floating in the ether. There's a lot that has been drilled down on by forces outside of the coterie. And speaking of one of those decisions that is enacted by something and someone outside of the coterie itself, Hestia finds herself standing in the hallway to the bathroom with the blonde Amazonian sauntering forward as if they are in fact a conquering lion. It is not hard to notice that as they move forward, drink in hand, the accidental, purposeful, slight sloshing to give the appearance of being slightly more inebriated than they are, that also down that hall, mixing and mingling with the crowd of people moving back and forth from the restrooms, are 2 of the gentlemen that were keeping watch. The third hasn't made themselves known, but the Amazon comes forward, stalking again like a conquering lion, a smile on her face as if she is the cat that got the cream. And then the old trope. I don't normally do this. And she closes distance, reaching out to hazard her touch, stroke along the arm, slide along the upper shoulder, down, across. Hestia's dead, but still voluptuous form.
Funny enough, neither do I, but seems you have a little bit of company. Those 2 guys have been following you. Maybe I'm too late, you know? Maybe you found some other playmates and friends.
Her face looks as if you slapped her. She fights the urge to look over her shoulder and fails. And the wheels are turning. And she's... Yeah, this bar is kind of creepy, kind of skeezy. There's a lot of guys that try to stalk anybody that they think they have a chance with. And she turns around, puts her back to you. God, I already told you I'm not into dudes. Fuck off. She turns back to you. Throws her arm around your shoulder. Let's I think that we can probably sneak out the back door if you want. We can get away from him that way. Come on, let's go.
In her head, the beast is chuckling, and it's almost too easy. You know, that sounds like a great idea. And she follows the lead, but as soon as they step foot outside, she's pushing the dumpster in the way of the back door so they can't be followed out.
What are you doing? God, come, we don't want... Would you be so kind as to roll your wits and awareness for me, please? Because the dumpster is on wheels, moving it is not an issue at all. In fact, this is the second time in this year that you've moved this dumpster. Once was to cover up the remnants of the discarded kindred you all found here, and block the doorway, much as you're doing now. Back when the coterie had a different feel to it, there was a honest to goodness leaning towards the idea of being good guys, of being heroes, of finding a way to speak for, defend those who don't have a voice for themselves. Now, while the tasks themselves are quite similar, you moving this dumpster, the outcome or the aim for outcome is completely different. And then it happens. The betrayal, the sheer audacity. As you move and her ruse is falling apart piece by piece, she does the only thing she can think of, and she kicks you in the back of the knee to try to drive you into the ground. Unfortunately for her, you are pushing the dumpster, which would cause you to fall into the dumpster. She has every intent of setting on you with all of the close combat training that she's been taught. And it is clear she's far more skilled than she should be. She has the body of someone who works out consistently, not the body of someone who fights. There aren't any bruised knuckles or calluses or scars that are visible, but it's clear that she's been trained, because when she sets on you, there is strength and intention behind the blows. What is it that Hestia does?
I go down like I'm falling, but I grab and take her with me and pin her under.
Okay. So that's a strength plus brawl versus a strength plus brawl. What is the outcome? What does fate decide in your tumble, in your attempt to defang the snake? You take the kick. You take the stomp. The other two blows, you're not sure where they came from, but they hit fast and furious. This Amazon is clearly a fan of violence. Is clearly experienced and learned it enough that as you go forward and roll to try to bring them down, they counter, rising with a knee and then an elbow. They work the angles and manage to free themselves from your grasp. There's no way the average person has the tactical wariness to do so, yet they are. There's a cooling sense of where this moment will end, and not for the first time. Hestia begins thinking of that information she found all those years ago, that there are places in the city where kindred disappear. There are places in the city where those associated with the kindred community vanish. There are places in the city where even kindred dare not tread. And those places operate during not only the evening hours when kindred are up and active and cognizant of the world around them, but during the daylight hours, letting you know that those places are run, operated, and maintained by mortals, by humans, by kind. The only protection the kindred have from rousing the public is, well, secrecy. And in those places where the kindred vanish, there is no secrecy. And those that work in those places are well aware as to what the kindred are and what they could in fact be. and they train, and they're diligent, and they're all but invisible because most kindred don't see mortals or kind as threats. And it's been a very long time since Hestia has considered a mortal a threat. It's been a very long time since Hestia has considered those places. It's been a very long time since Hestia has tasted the dead vitae of her being as her mouth is burst open. It's been a very long time since Hestia has been pounded on as if she's a hunk of meat being tenderized for the oven. And yet, one never forgets that feeling of being preyed upon. One never forgets the danger that exists just beneath notice. And here Hestia is in close combat with one such danger, with two others pushing against the inside of that door. And there was a third, wasn't there? There was another. And here she is, by herself, with this mortal.
Realizing this is the tide's turning and this is not what she wants to deal with right now, as much as her beast is probably screaming at her that she could still have a meal, she realizes this is not the place for her to be. So after she gets, I guess, that second blow and she's still kind of down, while she can make it a little bit, she's gonna go dodge around and then get the hell out of there full speed.
One of the many pitfalls of being competent and capable in yourself, or believing that you are when it comes to combat, is that you don't typically yell for help. You typically don't utilize that gift of communication that would make things better for yourselves. And it is clear that this woman is far too typical in that regard. The grunting and the exhalation of blows as she begins raining more down on you. And instead of doing the smart thing and yelling for help or drawing attention or otherwise minimizing Hestia's opportunities for egress, come at the cost that she is continuing to try to waylay and put Hestia down herself. And while she has strength and distance, she's missing a key component, which is the utilization of her team. Go ahead and roll your dexterity plus athletics +1. There's often taught it out that accuracy beats speed, and skill beats strength. Heshia's never put much credence into that idea, into the ideology. Yet as she momentarily, temporarily blurs from notice the clipping right hand that sets the entire left side of her face on fire, is proof that that is in fact a very real likelihood of being accurate. The fact that the woman was able to get off another shot, the fact that the woman was focused on combat, and even though her eyes or her mind couldn't track what her eyes saw, she was still able to lash out and catch Hestia with a clipping shot that normally would have torn open flesh, normally would have caused a fountain of blood to trail and trickle behind her. Luckily for Hestia, being already dead, Vitae doesn't quite move that easily. And while the initial bruising starts because the Vitae is mimicking life, there's no rupturing, there's no vast amount of physical show of the far too bruising action of being attempted to be captured by this woman. And there's a door flings open and the two men begin exiting. Hesher's already at the end of the alley. Hesher's already establishing distance between her and the people who are clearly seeking to capture or otherwise put down Kindred. She has the element of surprise, having escaped from close quarters with these people. Having managed to establish some distance, she knows that she is fast enough and she does have her blade. She could take that pound of flesh to assuage her pride. Or she can exercise discretion.
Hess knows she has, if she manages to live the next couple months, she has the rest of forever to get these people back, and she has more pressing concerns back at the shelter, so she is not going to stop. It's all speed ahead, telling her beast to shut the F up the whole time.
Is she using any of the side entrances through the morgue or through the parking structure, or is she going in through the main doors of the shelter?
The thing is, with the way she's hungry and she just caught that beating, I don't know how much fighting of her beast she could possibly do. She just want to get inside, so I think the quickest entrance would probably be the front door, instead of having to go all the way around the building to the back.
All right. So, first things first, let's do a quick stat check. Because you receive one, that's 5, that's 2.5. We're gonna round to 3 points of superficial damage that she has to put on her health tracker. The fact that she was almost captured, the fact that there are things out there in the dark hunting Kindred and not more than a stone's throw away from the shelter, and the fact that she's at hunger 4. Be so kind as to roll a resolve plus composure with a DC of 2 as she burst through the door of the shelter, looking as if she got jumped and waylaid, as if someone tried to rearrange her internal organs with their fists. She looks as if someone attempted to conduct cosmetic surgery on her by pounding her face flat. She does look, in fact, a sight. She has half her face, well, a quarter of her face, with this polished, quickly done, smoky-eyed night setting, her hair wild and loose around her head, her clothes scuffed, a few wet stains from the ground that she fell upon, the dirt and grime from the dumpster over her hands, and she looks as if she was set upon. She looks as if she was, well, she looks like what was going to happen. She looks as if she's a survivor of some human trafficking ring that was not quite quick enough.
Do I need to add the hunger for the composure roll?
Yes. And as the gazes, the glances, the fear, the worry begins to race amongst the mortal denizens of the shelter, Hestia manages to keep the beast from leaping from her chest. Hestia manages to keep from setting on the first frail, sensitive, all too living human in her control. Because that's what they are. They are humans in her control. They are humans, mortals, livestock that depend on her for their daily bread. If push came to shove, and it often does, the truth of the matter is, she all but owns them. She has given them the opportunity to form their little communities within the structure of the shelter. She sees to their well-being. She protects them. She provides meals and a place for them to lay their head. And everything but with the title and deed, they are hers. And it's only as she's quickly moving through the shelter, doing her best to avoid direct attention and focus, that she realizes Silvio got blood from somewhere. There wasn't enough time for him to go outside of the shelter. And while, in the grand scheme of things, a quaff of blood is not all that much, it is significantly more than you could comfortably take from any singular person without putting them at some measure of risk. And the blood that he brought was fresh. It was drying and sticking to the cup. It was the unfiltered stuff. Somewhere in this shelter is someone who gave. And she makes it into the office. And the moment she does, she smells Donnell's cologne. He's, as always, is in presence somewhere doing something, but most recently was in the office. And does she head to her suite of rooms, to Lucio's, or does she find some other place to alight inside the haven?
It's a rough one because she knows Lucio is weak right now, and having hit hunger 4, it would be so hard not to do what she's thinking of doing. Or even Miriam might be in trouble if she got hungry, you know. But there's nowhere else really that she would think to go because Sophia left and there's nobody really else to talk to, so otherwise she'd be like stalking around in the haven. Yeah, she's kind of drawn back to Lucio's room.
So as Hestia enters the doorway, like some horror from a movie made by young adults designed to scare other young adults, popping out of nowhere, relatively nowhere. The look of shock still present on the charred remnant of Lucio's face is there to be seen. And Miriam holding Lucio's phone, it ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing. We turn our gaze to Sophia. Having settled into your haven, with the choice of options ahead of you, what is it that Sophia does in this moment as Silvio gathers necessary implements to reach out to the ghosts that are part of the building?
She would probably take the time to change into fresh clothes, maybe make a phone call.
Whom would she be calling?
Someone at the shelter. Possibly Miriam, I was guessing. 'Cause she's had success with that before. She knows the other two don't like her, so.
Excellent timing. Standing in the doorway, Miriam holding clearly Lucio's phone as it rings and rings and rings. Lucio looking from the phone to the presence of death that stands in his doorway. Miriam's phone goes off. Miriam, now are you one of the modern children of the age who keeps your phone permanently on silent, where you can only feel the vibration of it? Or do you exist in that gray space with the Zennials and lesser generation X who keep the volume on, just at a lower register?
That is a very good question. I presume she is probably the latter.
Excellent. So as Lucio's phone rings and rings and rings, and the fate of the future of the world rests in that lack of contact, Miriam's phone goes off. And the difference between the two is jarring in that moment, because Hestia stands in the doorway, the beast clearly peeking out of her eyes, her fangs extended, her face looking as if it has been all but pulped. And Lucio looks, well, despite all of the ruined visage of his face, very much eyes slightly more open than they should be, because there is a fate in the offing. That line needs to connect. Someone needs to answer. And yet no one seems to do so.
Well, Miriam is going to set the one phone as it rings down and pick up her phone. She clearly has not noticed that Hestia is behind her yet. Hello?
Miriam.
Just a sec. Beaker. Okay, go ahead.
I haven't been invited to go to Milwaukee tomorrow. I need the rest of you have been invited as well.
Wonderful, but we're supposed to meet with the Voivode tomorrow.
And
And we're supposed to meet with the Voivode tomorrow?
was anyone going to inform me of this?
Yeah, we told you the other night when we had 3 days to meet with him. It's fine, you were busy with the stone. You probably weren't paying attention. But we told you.
That is problematic.
And why is it problematic?
Because we need to go to Milwaukee tomorrow.
We have a prior engagement.
We'll have to cancel and reschedule.
No.
So you're refusing your boon then?
I'm saying we have a prior commitment.
Has he fulfilled his end of the bargain?
Who knows? Certainly won't until we meet him and find out.
I'm pretty sure he is not.
Well, that's something you can take up with him then.
Certainly when I return from Milwaukee.
So we're in agreement. You're going to Milwaukee. I'll meet with the Voivode.
That is fine. You meet with the voivode.
As that tumbles from Miriam's mouth, as that tumbles from Sophia's mouth, in the open air in the space between Lucio and Hestia, this conversation taking place, there is one surety that has always been in place for the members of the shelter. Alex went off on his own, and because of that, they are currently persona non grata for an entire community of magical humans who are biding their time, gathering their strength to come back and kill at least one member of the shelter. Going off on his own, Julian was subsumed into the full political machinations of the chantry, to the point where when Miriam and Hestia attempted to make their escape, he did all he could to end them. Going off on his own is what led Clyde to being, well, no longer in existence. Going off on his own is what led Simone to the end he met in your company. Going off on his own is what led Mr. Orm further into the embrace of the ministry. Every time you all share space with another kindred and you all decide to go your separate ways, horror abounds. And it's hard for Lucio and Hestia to not see the correlation. It is impossible to not realize that each and every time, including sending Blue off with Dizzy in Chinatown, including Dizzy and Vivi making their last stand, including the last time Hestia and Lucio shared Vitae, with her dangling off the precipice of this life and slipping into the next, every time, without fail. In hearing this exchange, where does that place Hestia and Lucio?
Would that be enough to distract Hestia from what she came up there to originally do, or?
Yes.
I don't know. She pauses and looks at Miriam. I understand that if we do not meet with the Voivod, it will be declaring war and we would have a problem on our hands. Can we not move that to tonight to give him his possessions back early and still go to Milwaukee tomorrow night and fulfill our boon there?
I can't make
That
any
seems
promises.
smart.
I was just about to ask that too.
I can't make any promises.
Does Sophia hang up the phone while they're talking?
Not that I'm aware of.
The reason why I ask is that while Sophia is on the phone and Silvio is gathering implements, there's a at her door to which Silvio stops gathering the implements and heads down to the front door. He uses the peephole and steps back, drawing his firearm. Get to the safe room. We got a priest standing here.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
That, okay, his Hess knows of, or vaguely, one priest, or one that goes as a priest, but she doesn't know if it's the same one.
Quick question before we continue this line of thought. Did Miriam hang up the phone?
Not yet. She might have put it on mute.
Okay, so that means we all heard this then.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. One of us goes off by themselves, and this happens, motions to herself, and the other one goes off by themselves, and that happens. It's probably the lupines or something else.
Miriam
Not necessarily.
doesn't even have to roll. Miriam understands exactly what sort of links that a dragon who has a missing item would go to. Miriam has every understanding as to the power she felt when Sophia utilized the stone in her safe room at her haven.
So I will take the phone off of mute. What does the priest look like?
Would you like me to hand him the phone and you can ask him?
Oh, I'm just saying it might not be like the holy kind of priest that's there. Problems might be solved.
Same.
Your voivode is a priest.
Sorta.
100% so. And worse, while the problems or the idea of the problems may be solved, there's one glowing issue. The lodestone is not at Sophia's haven. The lodestone is touchably close to where Hestia, Lucio, and Miriam are, and disastrously not close enough to be touched by Sophia, or Sylvia, or most pressingly, the priest, who smiles, almost immediately instinctually aware that he is being watched by Sylvia on the other side of the door. There's one big thing about the kindred that is always surprising to those fresh to the life, is that the beast, in its cowardice and its will to survive, rarely ever puts itself in a situation where it is not, or potentially not, the most apex of predator, where it is not the acme in its situation. It's part of the tension that kindred live with. And standing on the other side of whatever thickness is Sophia's door, standing far too close to them all, willingly putting a body that most don't know exists into harm's way to obtain their prize, is a kindred who has seen the fall of sex as a whole. Standing on the other side of that door, what Miriam knows about the Voavad is their former reality as a leader and considered archbishop of the Sabbat. Standing on the other side of that door is a kindred who are sworn to kill those who have possessed his property. Now the question is, does she share that with her gaggle of associates, or is willing to see what becomes of their one protection, keeping them from being blood hunted by the entirety of the Camarilla as you know?
Silvio, if you will, please open the door for him.
And if you are wrong,
Well, if I'm wrong, it's just a mortal in a priest suit.
I think it could be many more things than that.
Well,
So, Silvio,
your house, your call.
our comrades advise that we let it in.
He looks at you and then looks at the door and sighs reservedly. Perhaps I should hold the phone and you should get to the safe room.
If it is who they say it is, and if they are not misplaced in their abject fear of this being, then I don't believe the safe room will matter.
There's an exit behind the second shelf that will lead down the, and then he lowers his voice, so where on the other side of the door is Kindred. Your birthday is the combination.
That's very sweet. But you should open the door. If we are going to fear this being, we will not take the throne. This will not be the last.
He hangs his head, grits his teeth, and says, "Sure thing." And he opens the door. There is a very real, audible sound that happens when a blade is inserted into flesh. Well, living flesh. Meat, already deceased, does not hold that same sense, that rush of air, that schlicking as it hits, and that whoomph as all of the air is driven up and out of the lungs when the blade is inserted quickly and forcefully. It's a sound that you don't realize you understand until you hear it, where it happens too fast for you to actually register it, but you know it. You know what it sounds like when something ends. You know that finality. Because unlike the Hakata as a whole, and the masters of necromancy in specific, for the average mortal, for the average kindred, there is a clear delineation between living or existing and the dead. And there's a line that you don't cross willingly. Silvio crosses that line before he realizes he has the speed and strength of his ghouldom allows him to understand that it is all over. The speed and strength of his adversary, who surges forth like that hoary dragon coming to collect its hoard to ravage the countryside. Even with his strength, even with his speed, the presaged horror that he will wreak on the world around him to regain what is his is not lost, as you all audibly hear the ending of Silvio and his continued fight, seizing that which lances through him, and screaming, gurgling as the woof of air drives his voice into almost nothingness. Run! And with that gasped, raspy run, with all the air left in his lungs being utilized to drive that forward, we draw to a close. And we'll see you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Night all.
Well, crap.